This will be a fairly short video. We're going to talk about clock speed. There are really two different clocks going on in your computers. There is an internal clock speed, which the CPU follows, and then an external clock speed, which the CPU uses to communicate with other devices, and by which all other devices march on their own. So let's talk about the internal clock speed first. This is the speed at which CPUs execute an instruction or part of an instruction, a thread. So in other words, every time that clock ticks, the CPU can make a change. It can change a register, for example, or a group of registers all at the same time. So that is the internal clock speed of the CPU, and we can speed that up. We can do what we call overclocking, which means we can make it go faster than it's intended to go. Unfortunately, there's a downside to that, and that is that as you make it go faster, the CPU uses more energy, and that means it heats up. Now we have fans to keep it cool, but if you heat it up too much, the fans can't keep up with it, and eventually it just maxes out and will fail on you. So you'll have more crashes, for example, if you overclock your system. By the way, gamers love to overclock systems, but again, it's a very fine line when you go too far. Now, the external clock speed is on the motherboard, and it is used to run everything else. It's typically a half or a third or a fourth. It is some specific unit that is a multiple of, or I should say, what do you say in the opposite direction of a multiple? I'm sure there's a mathematical term, I can't think of it. But anyway, of the internal clock speed. So, in other words, you don't find some weird, wacky number that goes on to 18 decimal places or something. No, it's going to be a half or a third or a fourth or an eighth of the speed of the internal clock. So that, for example, if it's half, every 2 cycles of the clock, you can send something out to another device or to memory in order for that to make a change. So the external clock speed just keeps chugging along at some rate. By the way, we sometimes call this the bus clock. And very, very early computers, I remember that you would see all these great specs on them, and they would give these things away free or for $200 or something for the privilege of showing you advertising on that computer. And here was the trick. Usually that external clock speed was very slow, that bus clock speed. And so those computers would not run very fast at all. So those are the two clocks, and that's a little bit about how they work.